The 5-6 Falcons travel to Washington to take on the Commanders. The 6-5 Manders are favorites in this game by 4.5 points with an over-under of 42. The Commanders are right there in the thick of it in the playoff race in the NFC. A win here puts them one step closer, right behind the New York Giants and the rest of that wild card pack that's in the NFC. They're starting to go into win now mode, or not win now mode, but win every game. Every game counts. Falcons are also right there as well at 5-6. A win here puts them right there with the Commanders. Aaron, I know at the beginning of the season I asked this more and more and more, or I asked this and you gave me shit about it. It was like, who like must win games? Like it's 3 games into the season. Must win games don't happen yet. Are we approaching that? Can I ask that question here?
No. Not in the NFC. I don't think so. When you're talking about
game counts, though.
Well, just because every game counts doesn't mean it's a must win. And you look at both of these teams; they're sitting 8th and 9th. Washington's only got 5 losses, so technically they're a half a game back of New York and Seattle for the final playoff spots. Washington still plays the Giants twice. Like, no, you can't really say it's a must-win game. They would control their own destiny to get in the playoffs, even if they lost this game. You know what I mean? So, and outside of Atlanta and Washington, there is nobody else really in the NFC that is looking at playoffs. So you're really talking about 9 teams for 7 spots. No, I don't. I think it's too early to talk about must-win for either one of these teams.
I think
Atlanta's playing in a division. Atlanta's playing in a division where they're a game back of first place. I don't see how you can look at this and say this is a must win and whatever team that loses is out of the playoffs.
I don't think you can say that whatever team loses is out of the playoffs, but I do think this is a must win game for the Atlanta Falcons sitting there at 5-6. Like you said, the division is right there up for grabs, but we've talked about where the Buccaneers sit in terms of their play and how they're figuring themselves out. They're getting hotter. And if you lose this game, you then fall right there behind everyone else. Like, obviously, you fall right there behind everyone else, but you don't like the Commanders are fortunate if they do play the Giants those 2 times. There's no one ahead of the Falcons that they are fortunate enough to play those 2 times to where, okay, they control their own destiny. I think the Falcons have to win this game because at season's end, if the Commanders and the Falcons are right there neck and neck battling for the last playoff spot, you look back on this game and say, oh man, if only they could have beaten the Commanders to get that last playoff spot. Because if these 2 teams tie in record, that's what it comes down to. That head-to-head matchup right here.
You're saying that they're going to be bad. You're saying that they possibly could be battling with each other. What about Seattle? What about the Giants? We just lamented how tough their schedules are.
Which is more reason why the Falcons need to win. Like almost every game from here on out for the Falcons is a win now, is a must-win game.
When you look at the Giants and the Seahawks schedule and where they're at now, and this would put Atlanta at 7 wins or 7 losses. Are you now saying that 10-7 couldn't get you into the playoffs?
I'm not saying 10-7 can't get you into the playoffs.
Are you telling me what is the record going to be of that number 7 seed going into the playoffs?
9-8,
probably 8-9 or 9-8.
Yeah.
So if that's what we're saying, then this can't be a must-win game.
Well, that's that. If the Falcons lose, then that would put them at 5-7, and that's 1 win and 1 loss away from it being okay. Like,
okay, you would even another loss would be 8, and if you won the table, you're 9-8, and 9-8 would probably going to get you into the playoffs in the NFC, just because of all the stuff that still has to sort itself out. When we look at the regular season, we see there's 6 games left. Oh no, we're running out of time. But how much of that 6 games things are going to happen? The Commanders have a bunch of division games against the Giants. The Giants have a tough-ass schedule. We talked about the Seahawks and what they have to go through being in their division and what they're going to have to do. They haven't played that well as of late either. They still have teams like the Niners, the Chiefs on their schedule. Like, there are games that are going to matter later that I feel like are must-win games. I don't know that you can call that a must-win game.
But you look at and maybe I'm a week early of a must-win game, but you look at their stretch after that bye, New Orleans, at Baltimore, and then Arizona and Tampa. Like, those
so
are
Baltimore Baltimore's the only team I really fear.
I mean, I would fear Tampa, and I guess I don't know if I'd fear Arizona.
But would you fear Tampa if they are not playing for the division anymore?
Oh, that's fair.
And they're resting their starters. Like, so these games, there's still so much that has to be played out. And I'm not saying you have to say it's a must win only if it's mathematically, because I agree with you. I think that's kind of the obvious, right? It's not mathematical. But I do feel like with the schedules of the Giants and the Seahawks, we're still, let's be honest, we're still questioning the Seahawks. The Commanders were unsure of. I just think it's a little early to say this is a must-win game. I feel like the team that gets into the playoffs at the number 7 seed probably going to be 9-8. And yeah. I think Atlanta has a week to play with here. And I think Washington probably has 2 weeks to play with here. So
okay, that's fair.
If Washington loses this game, it's less severe for them because they do play the Giants a couple of times than it is for the Falcons. But I still think the Falcons are in a good spot if they lose this week.
I'm going to hold you to this then. So if they lose next week, I'm going to from here on out say it's a must-win. Ask you the question, is it a must-win game for the Falcons from here on out? If they lose this week, I'm going to hold you to it and be very happy that I can say it's a must-win game for the Falcons because mathematically, and by your logic today, you said it's a must-win game. So I'm going to hold you to that. I'm holding you to it whether you like it or not. All right. So when we look at this game on paper between the Commanders and the Falcons here, Commanders entering this game 5-1 since week 6. It's the best record in the NFL since that time. They've been riding high with Taylor Heineke, who has led them to these victories over the past few weeks. He's been a very good change for this. They're going to continue riding with him. What do you expect to see? What do we expect to see in this game then? What do we expect to see?
Atlanta's going to run the football. Atlanta's going to try to run the football, but I think this is strength on strength. We talked about that Washington front and what they're able to do with Allen and Gerard, and Payne, and now you're getting Chase Young back. I think that defensive front is really good. So Atlanta's going to have to be able to do something in the passing game to secure a win. Obviously, now without Kyle Pitts, that makes it even harder. They're losing one of their best weapons, probably their best weapon. So it's going to be heavily relied upon Marcus Mariota and the play action, maybe getting out in space and running the ball for him, as well as finding guys like Drake London, Olamide Zaccheaus, and then Damiere Byrd and those guys down the football field. So it's going to be tough for Atlanta. I think this is a good matchup for Washington, just the way the matchup is. Give me Washington here. I think they're playing hot. They believe, and I believe Washington's at home, right?
Yep.
Because I'm not going to the game, so they must be at home. And Atlanta only seems to win when they're at home and with me at the game. So give me Washington in this one, 24-20.
Yeah, give me 28-24 Commanders here. The Falcons have an NFL high 8 games decided by 6 points or fewer this season. Add another one to that list as they fall, and it's a clean sweep for both of us. There's the Commanders defeating the Atlanta Falcons.